Sir, do you know why I pulled you over?
No, officer, I do not.
I don't understand what's going on.
Sir, we need you to explain your presence here.
Can you confirm your identity, please?
Pulled his window all the way down. The cop's face was shadowed under the brim of his hat, eyes cold. Marcus complied, slow, deliberate, palms visible. Sure, officer. May I ask what? Step out of the vehicle. Something in the man's tone twisted the air tight. The second officer moved closer, hand resting on his holster. Marcus exhaled. I'm an attorney. My ID's right, I said out. They yanked the door open. His shoulder slammed against the frame. Rain hit his cheek like spit. One blow, then another, his glasses hit the ground. The taste of iron filled his mouth. Stop resisting. One shouted he wasn't resisting. He couldn't even breathe. From somewhere far away, a woman screamed, phone raised, recording. The officers froze only when Marcus managed to choke out words through blood and disbelief. Federal Prosecutor. Department of Justice. The silence was deafening. Rain dripped off their gloves, mixing with the red on his shirt. The first officer stared, mouth half open. What did you just say? Marcus looked up through swollen eyes. His voice cracked. You just assaulted a federal officer. Then his vision blurred to black, the last thing he saw. A body cam's red light still blinking. Click. Recording. The night air was slick with humidity, thick as guilt. Washington streetlights glowed amber against the drizzle, each halo blurring through Marcus Hill's windshield. He rubbed his eyes. Too many hours spent under fluorescent courtroom lights arguing motions that never seemed to end. His phone buzzed on the console. A text from Carla. You still at the office? He typed, on my way home. Need a shower, sleep, and something stronger than coffee. The red and blue flash came out of nowhere, sirens, one car, then two. Marcus slowed, eased to the curb, hands in plain view. He'd done this dance before. Every black man knew the choreography. Don't move too fast, don't speak too loud, don't make them afraid. The first officer approached, light from the cruiser slicing across his face. Stocky build, shaved head, jaw tight. License and registration. Marcus's voice was calm. Of course, officer. May I ask what the issue is? Broken taillight, the man said flatly. Step out of the vehicle, Marcus blinked. Sir, with respect, why would... The officer yanked the door. Cold air rushed in. The second officer, a younger man with anxious eyes, hovered near the hood, hand already brushing his holster. Step out, the first one repeated, sharper. Marcus's heart thudded. I'm a federal attorney. My credentials are... Don't play smart, he got out slowly. Rain gathered on his suit jacket. He held his wallet in one hand, his ID visible. This is my identification. My office is... A shove hard, his back hit the car. Turn around. Hands on the hood. What's the charge? Resisting. He barely saw the first swing. A baton slammed his ribs. Pain burst through him like electricity. Stop, he gasped. I'm not resisting. The younger cop hesitated, eyes flicking toward the body cam light. Sarge, maybe quiet, the older barked. He fits the description. Marcus coughed blood onto the hood. Of who? No answer. Rain turned his world into static. A woman across the street shouted, Hey, I'm recording this. The senior officer turned, eyes narrowing. Put that phone down. The camera didn't lower. Marcus could feel his consciousness dimming. His fingers trembled. He forced the words through a throat thick with pain. Federal Prosecutor. Department of Justice. The baton froze midair. The younger officer's face drained of color. What did he just... Then darkness. The siren wailed again, echoing through the rain. Somewhere in that wet silence, the body cam kept blinking. Red light steady, unblinking. The antiseptic smell hit him first. Then the beeping. Marcus opened his eyes to a ceiling stained with fluorescent light. His ribs felt like cracked glass. His lips dry, split. He tried to sit up. A nurse rushed in, palms raised. Easy, Mr. Hill. You've got 3 bruised ribs and a mild concussion. You're lucky you're even awake. Where? His voice rasped. Where am I? Georgetown University Hospital. You've been here overnight. Marcus blinked, trying to piece it all back. The rain, the blows, the red light blinking. Then the door opened again. Detective Carla Ruiz, her badge glinting on a chain, eyes sharp with both relief and fury, strode in carrying a tablet. Jesus, Marcus. She exhaled. You look like you went 12 rounds with a damn freight train. He gave a bitter smile. Feels about right. Carla set the tablet on the bed. Before you see this, I need you to breathe, okay? Marcus frowned. See what? She tapped the screen. A shaky phone video filled it. Rain, sirens, shouts. Him bent over the car, the baton coming down. The woman's voice screaming, "He's not resisting!" The clip ended on him whispering those words, "Federal prosecutor." He couldn't breathe. His chest tightened.
That's online?
Carla nodded grimly. Everywhere. Twitter, Reddit, news sites. They're calling it the prosecutor beating. He shut his eyes. The room tilted. God, Carla hesitated. The department's already reviewing it. Internal Affairs claims the officers reported you as aggressive. Said you reached for your waistband. Marcus barked out a humorless laugh that turned into a cough. Classic. Marcus, no, it's fine. He rubbed his forehead. Aggressive while bleeding. Reaching for my badge, apparently. She pulled up another clip, the hospital hallway outside. Reporters were already there, cameras flashing. You're a headline now. Civil rights groups are demanding suspension. The mayor's office called the DOJ. Marcus looked away. I didn't ask for this. Carla's voice softened. You didn't have to. They made sure of it. Silence stretched between them. The steady beep-beep of the monitor filled the void. Marcus spoke quietly. You think I should press charges? You were assaulted by 2 uniformed officers, Carla said. In front of witnesses. What do you think? I think, he said slowly, that I work for the same Justice Department that defends these officers in court. I think I'll be labeled angry or biased. I think my career just turned radioactive. Carla's jaw tightened. You think hiding will protect you? He stared at the floor. No, but surviving might. She sat beside him, her tone lower. Listen, the woman who filmed that video, her name's Tasha Daniels. She's already received threats online for posting it. People digging into her job, her family. Marcus frowned. They're going after her? Yeah, that's how this game works, he swallowed hard. And the officers? Suspended with pay. The department's waiting for the PR storm to pass. A bitter laugh escaped him. Suspended with pay. Must be nice to brutalize a citizen and take a paid vacation. Carla leaned in. Marcus, we both know they're hoping you back off. File nothing. Stay quiet. Let the story fade. And if I don't? Her eyes met his. Then the machine turns on you. He sighed, the weight in his chest heavier than the bandages. You ever get tired of this? Every damn day, she smiled sadly. But tired ain't the same as done. The nurse entered again, checking his vitals. Carla stood, pocketing the tablet. I'll give you space, but think about your next move carefully. Yeah, he murmured. Carefully's all I've got left. When she left, Marcus reached for the remote, flipping through channels. Every station played the same footage, his face swollen. His name scrolling in bold text. Federal prosecutor assaulted by police. DOJ promises review. A panel of talking heads debated his life like a legal brief. One anchor said, if he hadn't identified himself, would anyone care? Another replied, that's the tragedy, isn't it? Marcus muted the TV. The silence hurt worse. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. He answered. Mr. Hill? A clipped official voice. This is Deputy Director Lawson from the Department of Justice. We'd like you to refrain from making public statements until our internal assessment concludes. Assessment? Marcus said coldly. They beat me unconscious. Understood, but media sensitivity. We'll handle this discreetly. Discreetly, he repeated. You mean quietly? The line clicked dead. Marcus dropped the phone onto the bed. His reflection stared back from the dark TV screen. Eyes ringed, jaw bruised, haunted. He whispered to no one, Justice, huh? The door opened again. Carla peeked in. I forgot to tell you. Internal Affairs wants to interview you tomorrow. You good for that? He nodded faintly. Sure, let them come. She paused, hand on the doorframe. You gonna keep fighting? Marcus looked down at his trembling hands. The same hands that argued cases before federal judges. Now bruised useless. I don't know yet, he said. But I can't unsee that tape. Carla nodded slowly. Then maybe that's where it starts. The door closed, outside rain began again, gentle this time, almost cleansing. Marcus watched it streak the window like tears he couldn't allow himself to shed. His phone buzzed once more, this time a text from an unknown number. Drop the charges. Or next time you won't wake up. He stared at it. Pulse hammering. The room's shadows seemed to lengthen. He didn't delete the message. He just saved it for evidence. The conference room was cold enough to make Marcus's bruises ache. A long table divided the space, polished wood reflecting the fluorescent lights overhead. On one side sat Marcus and his attorney, a calm woman named Denise Carter from the DOJ's Civil Rights Division. On the other, 3 men in suits with the same blank expressions worn by people who already know how this ends. A small recorder blinked red in the center. The man in the middle cleared his throat. "Mr. Hill, we appreciate your cooperation. I'm Captain Reeves, Internal Affairs. These are Sergeants Boyd and Keller. We're here to get your version of events." Marcus leaned back, ribs wrapped tight beneath his shirt. "My version is on video." Boyd's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Of course. But we'd like your personal statement, sir." Denise glanced at him. "Stay calm." Marcus exhaled. "I was driving home. Stopped when ordered. Complied fully. Then I was assaulted without provocation. The footage confirms that." Keller scribbled notes. "You mentioned you're a federal prosecutor?" "Yes." "And you didn't identify yourself immediately?" "I did, repeatedly. It's audible in the recording." Reeves folded his hands. "Understand, Mr. Hill. Traffic stops can escalate when officers feel unsafe. Perhaps there was miscommunication." "Miscommunication?" Marcus's voice cracked with disbelief. "They cracked my ribs and split my lip. What exactly did I miscommunicate?" Denise gently touched his arm. "Marcus." Reeves's tone remained calm, almost rehearsed. "Look, we take these matters seriously. But it's important we review all perspectives. The officers claim you reached toward your waistband. For my ID. They couldn't have known that." Marcus leaned forward. "They didn't want to know that, Olens." The hum of the overhead lights filled the room. Reeves clicked his pen. "We'll need your medical records and any personal notes you've made. You'll be contacted once the review concludes." Denise spoke up, sharp. "You mean once the department clears its own employees?" Reeves ignored the jab. "That'll be all for today." Marcus stood slowly, wincing. "That's it? You call this justice?" Reeves didn't look up. "We call it procedure." Outside, the hallway buzzed with chatter. Uniforms, clipboards, the machinery of bureaucracy in motion. Marcus and Denise walked side by side until they reached the elevator. She pressed the button, jaw tight. "They're running the same playbook I've seen 100 times. Soften the language, drag the timeline, bleed out the outrage. Until people stop watching," Marcus said. "Exactly." The elevator doors opened. He stepped in but didn't press a floor. "They're betting I'll back down." Denise met his eyes. "Will you?" He hesitated. "I don't know yet." The elevator hummed upward. Later that afternoon, Marcus limped through the DOJ's marble lobby. The familiar halls suddenly felt foreign, like walking through a house you once owned but no longer recognized. Colleagues gave sympathetic smiles or avoided eye contact altogether. At his office door, someone had left a newspaper clipping. "Prosecutor beaten by police and race questions raised." Scrawled across it in marker, "Play victim much?" He froze, then quietly folded the paper and slipped it into his drawer. Carla appeared behind him. "You okay?" "Define okay." She shut the door behind her. "I just came from precinct headquarters. You're not going to like this, so try me. They're pushing the narrative that you resisted arrest. They've already got statements from the 2 officers saying you were intoxicated." Marcus's jaw tightened. "Intoxicated?" "I was driving home from the DOJ, I know. But they filed for a toxicology report from the hospital. They'll say anything that sticks," he paced. "They want to make me the aggressor. They always do." He slammed his fist on the desk, then winced, pain shooting up his side. "Carla, they're not even hiding it anymore. Because they don't have to." He looked up. "What about the union?" "They've already released a statement. Our officers acted in accordance with training during a high-risk stop. They're rallying around them." Marcus laughed, hollow. "High risk meaning what? Driving while black in a suit?" Carla folded her arms. "You could take this higher, file an official civil rights complaint. You've got the credibility. And lose my job? You think the DOJ wants one of their own suing the police department?" Carla sighed. "Maybe the question isn't what they want, Marcus. It's what you can live with." He stared at the wall. The framed certificate that once made him proud now looked like a taunt. "Justice Department. Funny," he muttered. "How justice stops at the badge." That night, Marcus sat alone in his apartment. The city lights blinked like dying stars through the window. On his laptop, his inbox overflowed. Messages from reporters, activists, hate mail, even old law school friends writing, "Saw you on the news, man. Stay strong." He scrolled until one message froze him. Subject, internal review leak. The body read, "They're planning to close your case as unsubstantiated. Body cam footage to remain unreleased. Consider that your warning." Anonymous, he stared at it for a long time. Then called Carla. "Tell me you're sitting down," she said when she picked up. "I just got an email. Someone inside leaked that they're burying the body cam footage." "Yeah," I heard similar whispers. "But if that's true, it means they're going to erase what happened." A pause. "Not if we leak it first," he blinked. "You're serious?" "Dead serious. I've got a contact at Channel 7 who'd air it tonight." Marcus hesitated, his pulse quickening. "That could destroy my career." "Maybe. Or maybe it forces their hand." He looked at the reflection of his bruised face in the laptop screen. The faint line of stitches over his eyebrow. He whispered, "They already destroyed my career." Carla didn't respond right away. Then softly, "Then maybe it's time they pay for it." Marcus stared out the window, the Capitol dome glowing faintly through mist. Somewhere in those white marble halls, men talked about justice like it was currency. He clenched his jaw. "Send me the contact, are you sure?" "I'm done being quiet," Carla exhaled. "Okay, I'll set it up." When the call ended, Marcus looked down at his trembling hands. Outside, thunder rolled over the city like a warning. The city woke up on fire. By sunrise, every major network ran the same clip. Body cam footage from the night Marcus Hill was beaten. The shaky, rain-soaked video showed the truth in brutal, uncut clarity. The baton, the shouts, the silence after his words. "Federal prosecutor." It wasn't supposed to see daylight. But someone had leaked it. Marcus's phone wouldn't stop vibrating. Reporters, colleagues, strangers, even his mother. He didn't answer a single one. The TV in his apartment blared. This exclusive video raises serious questions about systemic racism in law enforcement. He turned it off, then his doorbell rang. Marcus Hill? A man in a dark windbreaker flashed credentials. Washington Post. "Sir, we'd like a statement about the footage." Marcus shut the door. The knocking continued until he yelled, "No comment." A voice from inside the hallway called, "They're gonna tell your story without you, man." He pressed his back to the door, eyes shut. Let them. By mid-morning, his office was chaos. Staffers whispered. Phones rang nonstop. A security guard at the DOJ entrance stopped him as he walked in. "Sorry, Mr. Hill, I need to see your badge." Marcus stared at him. "You've seen me every day for 3 years." "Orders, sir." He handed it over, jaw tight. The guard scanned it twice before nodding. "You can go in." As Marcus passed through, he heard 2 employees muttering by the elevator. "Did you see the video?" "Yeah, can you imagine if he wasn't a prosecutor? They'd have buried it forever." He kept walking. Inside his office, Carla was waiting. She held up her phone, a news headline glowing across the screen. "Body cam footage leaked. DOJ under pressure to act." Her grin was tired but defiant. "We did it." Marcus closed the door behind her. "You leaked it?" "Not me directly. Let's just say someone slipped it to a journalist who owed me a favor." He sank into his chair. "You realize this might end my career?" Carla shrugged. "Better your career than your conscience." He rubbed his temples. "They'll come for me now." "They already did," she said quietly. "This time at least the world's watching." The news spread like a virus. Protests erupted outside police headquarters by afternoon. Hundreds of people with handmade signs. "Justice for Marcus Hill. End qualified immunity. We're watching you." TV crews swarmed. Helicopters circled. Inside the precinct, chaos reigned. Officers stared at the screens in disbelief. The 2 who had assaulted Marcus, Sergeant Larkin and Officer Trent, were escorted to a separate room. Larkin's face was pale. "Who the hell leaked that?" Trent muttered, "Body cam data's internal. Someone high up must have done it." A superior officer slammed the table. "Both of you are suspended pending further investigation. Hand over your weapons and badges." Larkin's jaw tightened. "This is political." The captain leaned forward. "No, Sergeant. It's viral." Marcus and Carla watched the live coverage from a conference room window overlooking the crowd. Carla said softly, "They're calling for their arrests." Marcus didn't respond. His eyes were on the protesters, the signs, the chants, the anger. A wave of conflicting emotions surged through him. Validation, fear, exhaustion. He finally spoke. "I didn't want this. I know," Carla said. "But maybe it's what needed to happen." Denise Carter from DOJ stormed into the room, her tone urgent. "Marcus, what the hell did you do?" Denise exhaled, pacing. "You're being made the symbol of a national crisis, Marcus. That's not a compliment." Carla crossed her arms. "Maybe it should be." Denise shot her a glare. "Stay out of this, detective." Marcus stepped forward. "No, she's right. Maybe people finally see what this system does to its own." Denise lowered her voice. "You're walking a dangerous line. They're already talking about putting you on administrative leave." Marcus's voice steadied. "Then I'll have plenty of time to testify." Her eyes narrowed. "Testify?" "Against the officers, against the department, against the whole damn structure that let this happen." Carla's lips curved in a faint smile. "Now that's the Marcus Hill I remember." Denise shook her head. "You're making powerful enemies." "I already have scars," Marcus said. "Might as well earn them." By evening, the protests grew louder. The city's mayor appeared on television, announcing an emergency press conference. Marcus watched from his couch, the glow of the TV flickering across his living room. "Effective immediately," the mayor said. "The 2 officers involved have been placed under criminal investigation. We are cooperating fully with federal authorities to ensure transparency and accountability." Marcus leaned back, whispering, "Transparency. That's new." His phone buzzed. Unknown number again. He hesitated, then answered. A male voice spoke, low, trembling with anger. "You think you won? You think this is justice? You ruined careers. You made enemies in every precinct. Watch your back." The line went dead. He stared at the phone, then hit record and said, "New threat received, 7:43 p.m. Carla texted seconds later. "They're surrounding the station. The crowd's massive. Be careful if you leave home." He typed back, "Not going anywhere. Just watching." Outside, through his window, the sound of distant chants rolled through the night air. A storm of human voices refusing silence. He whispered, "This isn't about me anymore." The city lights shimmered against the glass. His reflection looked older, wearier but steadier than before. The phone buzzed one more time, a message from an unlisted contact. "Tomorrow morning, court order for testimony, subpoena to appear." Marcus read it twice, then whispered to himself, "So it begins." He turned the TV back on. The final shot on the news. The 2 officers being led through a swarm of cameras, faces hidden, their silence louder than any siren. And for the first time since that night, Marcus allowed himself to breathe, not because he felt safe, but because the world was finally forced to look. The courthouse steps looked like a movie set. Flashing cameras, news vans, voices overlapping like waves. Every major network had parked outside. Protesters held signs beside counter-protesters. One read, "Justice for Marcus Hill." Another across the barricade, "Support our police." Marcus adjusted his tie, exhaled slowly. The bruise under his left eye had faded, but the memory hadn't. Carla met him at the door. "You ready for this?" she asked. "No," he said honestly. "But I'm going in anyway." Inside, the courtroom buzzed. The 2 officers, Sergeant Larkin and Officer Trent, sat at the defense table in matching suits, their expressions rehearsed calm. Between them, their defense attorney, Richard Hale, whispered strategy. Denise Carter sat with Marcus at the prosecution's table. She leaned close. "Remember, speak in facts, not fury. They'll try to provoke you." Marcus nodded. They already did. When Judge Eldridge entered, the chatter fell silent. The gavel struck like thunder. "This court is now in session for the state versus Larkin and Trent." The prosecution began with the footage. Every juror forced to watch the beating in full. The sound of rain, Marcus's voice, the body cam light blinking. Some jurors flinched. Others stared straight ahead, faces unreadable. When the clip ended, the room held a silence thick enough to choke on. Denise stood. The evidence speaks for itself. Mr. Hill complied. He was brutalized for existing in the wrong body, in the wrong place, at the wrong time. Richard Hale rose, voice smooth as oil. Ladies and gentlemen, what you saw is tragic. Yes, but incomplete. Policing is dangerous. Split-second decisions. My clients reacted to a perceived threat, a misunderstanding, not malice. Marcus's fists tightened under the table. Perceived threat, Denise echoed quietly. Right. When his name was called, Marcus rose, buttoned his jacket, and walked to the stand. The courtroom lights felt hotter than they should have been. Denise began gently. Mr. Hill, can you describe your occupation? I'm a federal prosecutor with the Department of Justice, and on the night in question, I was driving home from a meeting. I was pulled over, complied with every command. Her tone softened. What happened next? Marcus inhaled slowly. They pulled me out, hit me, called me aggressive. I was bleeding before I could even speak. Did you resist? No. Did you identify yourself? Yes. Multiple times. Did they stop? He looked down. Not until I said I was a federal prosecutor. The courtroom murmured. Denise glanced at the jury. So they only stopped when they realized you had power. Richard Hale stood for cross-examination. Mr. Hill, he said, smiling like it cost him nothing. You're a lawyer yourself, correct? Yes. Then you understand tension during police encounters. I understand the law, not the fear. Fear can make men act irrationally, can't it? Marcus's voice steadied. Fear didn't make them do that. Training did. The jury stirred. Hale adjusted his glasses. You admit you reached toward your waistband? For my identification? Slowly. Palms visible. And you didn't announce that before doing so? I did. Twice. Hale turned to the jury. The officers couldn't hear over the rain. They reacted in the moment. Marcus met his gaze. Funny how the rain didn't muffle their orders. Only my voice. A few people in the gallery murmured approval before the judge rapped the gavel. Order, Hale smirked. So you claim zero fault? I claim survival, Marcus said. That's all I was trying to do. For the first time, the defense attorney had no comeback. After recess, Carla joined Marcus in the hallway. You killed it in there, she whispered. He shook his head. They're not after truth. They're after doubt. Denise joined them, flipping through her notes. We'll call Tasha Daniels next, the woman who filmed the video. Her testimony seals it. She still wants to testify? Marcus asked. She's scared, but she said she'd do it. When Tasha took the stand, her hands shook, but her voice didn't. I saw him standing there calm. They hit him anyway. That's why I recorded. Because I knew if I didn't, no one would believe it happened. Did you alter the video in any way? Denise asked. No, ma'am. Just uploaded it. Did anyone from the department contact you afterward? Her throat tightened. They told me to delete it, said I could get hurt if I kept it online. Gasps rippled through the courtroom. Denise's tone sharpened. Did they identify themselves? One did. Said he worked in the union office. Judge Eldridge's brow furrowed. Noted for the record, Richard Hale didn't cross-examine her. He knew better. Later that day, as proceedings adjourned, Marcus walked outside into the press swarm. Microphones and cameras thrust toward him. Mr. Hill, do you think this case exposes systemic bias? Do you plan to sue the department? Are you afraid for your safety? He raised a hand. This isn't about me. It's about accountability. It's about what happens when power forgets its limits. A reporter shouted, Do you think justice will be served? Marcus paused. Ask me when it's over. Carla guided him through the crowd toward her car. You realize half the city's watching you now? He laughed without humor. They're not watching me, Carla. They're watching to see if the system can still lie with a straight face. That night, he sat alone again, TV muted. The image, on screen, courtroom sketches of himself and the officers side by side. Below it, a scrolling caption, "Trial of the Year, symbol of change or token case." Marcus whispered to the empty room. Maybe both. A knock at the door. He opened it to find a plain envelope on the floor. No name, just 3 words written in black ink. It's not over. Inside, a printed photo, grainy, taken from across the street. Him and Carla leaving the courthouse. He stared at it for a long moment, pulse quickening, the chill crawling up his spine. The world might finally be watching, but someone, somewhere, still wanted him silent. By morning, Marcus's phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Hundreds of notifications, headlines, texts, voicemails. Justice for Marcus Hill was trending. So was Giant Blue Lives Matter. The country had picked sides overnight. Carla was the first to call. "You seeing this?" "Trying not to," Marcus said, eyes locked on the screen. News commentators were already arguing, is Marcus Hill a hero or a divider? She exhaled. "They're digging into your past, Marcus. College records, old case files, someone's leaking." "Of course they are," he muttered. "Truth never comes without a price." He opened his email. Death threats, slurs, photoshopped memes of him kneeling beside burning flags. He closed the laptop slowly, jaw tightening. Outside his window, a few reporters had already gathered on the sidewalk, microphones ready. At the DOJ, the atmosphere had shifted. The air was tighter, colder. People avoided eye contact as Marcus walked in. When he entered his supervisor's office, Deputy Director Winslow didn't look up from his papers. "Sit down." "Hill." Marcus complied, posture straight. Winslow sighed. "You've become a lightning rod." "I didn't ask for that. No one asks for it. But perception is reality now. Half the department thinks you're grandstanding." "Grandstanding?" Marcus echoed. "I was beaten by 2 cops who thought I was a criminal. I'm testifying in a case we should all care about." Winslow finally looked up, weary. "The Bureau's getting calls. Politicians, donors, even the Police Benevolent Association. They're pressuring us to pull you off active cases." Marcus froze. "You're suspending me?" "Administrative leave. With pay." He almost laughed. "That's how they silence you. Pay you to disappear." Winslow's tone softened. "Marcus, I know it's wrong, but this case isn't just yours anymore. It's a war. Then maybe it's time someone stopped pretending we're neutral." Winslow's silence said everything. Back home, Marcus found Carla waiting on his steps. She had coffee in hand and exhaustion in her eyes. "Thought you'd need this," she said, offering the cup. He took it. "They benched me." Carla cursed under her breath. "Of course they did. Image management, right? Administrative leave, like I'm the scandal." They sat on the porch listening to distant sirens. "You ever think about quitting?" she asked. "Every day. But then I think about what happens if I do. The next guy they stop might not have a badge or a degree to save him." Carla nodded quietly. "Then you stay. But not quietly." That afternoon, a protest erupted downtown, 2 blocks from the courthouse. Marcus watched the live coverage from his couch. Reporters called it a peaceful demonstration. But as the sun fell, peace turned brittle. Police lines formed, tear gas floated. Shouting filled the air. "Unbelievable," he whispered. Then, over the feed, he saw it. A man holding a cardboard sign with his own face printed on it. Under the words, "He hates the badge." The crowd chanted his name, distorted, weaponized. The anchor's voice trembled. "Officials confirm clashes between protesters and police. 1 officer injured." Marcus turned off the TV. His reflection stared back from the black screen, eyes hollow, jaw locked. His phone buzzed again. "Unknown number." He hesitated, then answered. "Mr. Hill?" a male voice asked, cold and calm. "You're making a lot of enemies." "Who is this?" A short chuckle. "Let's just say, you should watch your back. Accidents happen, especially to people who forget which side they're on." The line went dead. Marcus's pulse thundered in his ears. He checked the locks twice, then 3 times. The next morning, a news story broke. The body cam footage from another angle, selectively edited, leaked online. The caption read, "Prosecutor instigated his own arrest." Clips of him reaching toward his waist looped endlessly, stripped of context. The comments were venom. Carla stormed into his apartment, laptop in hand. "They're manufacturing a narrative, Marcus. They've cut half the footage." "I know. They're saying you grabbed at something, a weapon." He shook his head slowly. "Doesn't matter what's real. Only what they repeat." Carla's voice rose. "So what, we just sit here while they destroy you?" Marcus looked up at her, eyes heavy but resolute. "No, we fight fire with sunlight. Get me that uncut video. Every frame. We show the truth before they rewrite it." By evening, the footage was everywhere. The doctored version on TV, the real one on Carla's independent site. The contrast spoke louder than any speech. In one, Marcus looked violent. In the other, he was the victim of restraint turned brutality. The internet split again. Hashtags warred. The courthouse steps filled with both candles and threats. Denise called near midnight. "Marcus, stay off the grid. They vandalized your car outside the courthouse. Traitor spray-painted across it." He rubbed his eyes. "It's only metal. It's intimidation. Be careful." "I'm past careful," he said quietly. "I'm furious." Later in the dark, Marcus replayed the full video again, frame by frame. The moment he raised his hands, the moment their batons descended. He paused on his own face, calm, stunned, human. He whispered, "You can edit truth, but you can't erase it." Then his phone buzzed again. This time it was an email from an anonymous address. "You want justice? Tomorrow, 9 a.m., City Archives. Ask for the internal memo. You'll find what they're hiding." Marcus stared at the screen. The words glowed like a dare. Carla's voice echoed in his head. "You stay." But not quietly. He pocketed his badge, grabbed his jacket and glanced at the window. Outside, two figures stood by a parked car watching. He pulled the curtains closed. Tomorrow, the fight would go underground, and this time, he wouldn't walk away quietly. The city archives were colder than Marcus remembered, the kind of cold that came from both air conditioning and neglect. Rows of metal shelves stretched into the dimness, boxes labeled with dates, departments, and case numbers. He stood at the counter as a clerk. An older woman with gray curls and wary eyes looked him over. "Name?" she asked. "Marcus Hill." Her gaze flickered with recognition. "The prosecutor from the news?" He nodded once. She hesitated, lowering her voice. "You're taking a risk coming here, Mr. Hill. They said someone might show up asking questions. I didn't believe it." Marcus leaned in slightly. "Someone told me there's an internal memo about officer misconduct reports that vanished after my incident. You know where it would be?" She tapped her keyboard. The hum of the machine filled the silence. Records like that would have been logged under IA, Internal Affairs. "But," she frowned, "the folder's restricted. Requires department authorization." He handed her his federal ID. "This enough?" She stared at it, then at him. "You didn't get this from me," she muttered, typing faster. Minutes later, she slid him a folder stamped, "Confidential, do not duplicate." "Room 314, she whispered. "Read it there." "Cameras don't work in that section." The fluorescent lights in room 314 buzzed faintly. Marcus sat at a steel table, opening the folder with slow, deliberate care. Inside were printed emails, redacted complaint logs, and a cover sheet dated 4 months before his assault. Subject line, "Incident Handling Guidelines, Media Exposure Protocols." His eyes scanned the memo. Effective immediately. Any use of force incident involving minority subjects should be reviewed internally before external reporting. If necessary, reframe narrative under resistance to compliance clause to prevent reputational damage. His chest tightened. Another line, handwritten in the margin, caught his eye. "Larkin plus Trent. Reliable field assets. Handle with discretion." Marcus felt a sharp chill creep through him. They weren't rogue. They were protected. A voice came from behind him. "You weren't supposed to see that." He turned. A man stood in the doorway, mid-40s, tailored suit, eyes like cold glass. "Detective Rains," Marcus said, recognizing him from the Internal Affairs unit. "You're part of this." Rains stepped closer, shutting the door quietly. "You think you're the first one to find a dirty memo, Hill? The system's been cleaning up after itself for decades." Marcus kept his tone steady. "You falsified oversight records. You protected known offenders. Protected? Rains smiled faintly. We maintained order. You think public trust survives full transparency? People need their illusions, son. Marcus rose from the chair. People deserve the truth. That's your mistake. Rains took another step forward. You think truth saves anyone? It doesn't. It burns careers, collapses budgets, and leaves you unemployed with a target on your back. Marcus's hands balled into fists. Then let it burn. The detective's smile thinned. Careful, counselor. You're suspended, remember? If this leaks, you're a disgruntled employee, not a whistleblower. Marcus took out his phone, activating the voice recorder. Say that again, Rains chuckled. You really think that matters? We own the narrative. Always have, Marcus's jaw tightened. Not anymore. Rains moved closer, lowering his voice. Walk away, Hill, you got your 15 minutes. Go back to D.C., let this city rot in peace. Otherwise. He let the silence hang. Marcus didn't flinch. Otherwise what? Rains's smile faded. Otherwise, accidents happen. He turned and left, his shoes echoing down the hall. Marcus stared at the memo again, scanning every line. At the bottom of the page, a name appeared. Deputy Director Winslow. His stomach dropped. The man who'd benched him. He took photos of every document, tucking the folder back into its envelope. Then he called Carla. Meet me in 30 minutes, he said. I found the proof. They met in a quiet cafe across from the archives. Carla slid into the booth, eyes darting to his phone. You got it? He showed her the images. She scrolled slowly, face tightening with every line. Jesus, she whispered. This isn't just cover-up, it's policy. Marcus nodded. Winslow's name is on it. He's been feeding internal affairs directions. So what's the play? He hesitated. We leak it anonymously. Carla frowned. No. If it comes from nowhere, they'll call it fake. It has to come from you. That's career suicide. Marcus, they already buried your career the moment they benched you. He exhaled, rubbing his temples. You ever get tired of being right? She smiled faintly. Constantly. They drafted a statement that night, clear, factual, damning. Marcus recorded a video. This memo proves a coordinated effort to protect officers who violate civil rights. This is not about one beating. It's about a system built to excuse it. Carla uploaded it to her site, synced to go live at 7 a.m. by dawn. It was everywhere. Screens across the country flashed. Federal prosecutor exposes DOJ police collusion. The backlash was instant. Officials denied it. Pundits attacked his credibility. And government spokespeople called it deeply irresponsible. But public opinion shifted. People saw the memo. The language. The signatures, Denise called at noon, voice low. You just detonated a bomb. Then maybe people will finally hear the blast. You understand what happens next, right? She asked. He stared out the window. Unmarked cars moving slower than usual down his street. Oh, I do, he said. They'll come for me. But at least now, the world's watching. That night, as rain began again, Marcus sat by the window with a single lamp on. His phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. You made a mistake. Truth doesn't save you. It isolates you. He smiled faintly, whispering to himself, then I'll learn to live alone. Outside, headlights paused across the street, lingering too long before driving off. Marcus looked down at the memo again, folded in his pocket like a loaded weapon. For the first time in weeks, he felt something close to calm, because this time, the story didn't belong to them anymore. It belonged to the truth. The morning after the leak, Marcus woke to pounding on his door. 3 hard knocks, official, rehearsed. He opened it to find 2 federal agents standing on the porch, rain dripping off their trench coats. Marcus Hill? One asked, flashing a badge. Yes. You're being placed under administrative investigation for unauthorized disclosure of classified material. Step aside, please. Marcus blinked. Classified material? That memo was evidence of corruption. The taller agent said flatly, You're under suspension pending review. We'll need your phone, laptop, and badge. Carla appeared from the hallway, voice sharp. You can't just, and the agent held up a hand. Ma'am, please step back. Marcus looked at her, then slowly handed over his badge. You can take this, he said, voice steady. But you can't take what's already public. The agent's jaw clenched. We'll see about that. They left with his devices, leaving behind the silence of a home suddenly smaller than before. Carla closed the door, turning to him. They're trying to scare you. They're trying to erase me, Marcus said quietly. Same thing. By midday, news anchors were dissecting his every move. Did Marcus Hill break federal law? Hero or reckless opportunist? Every station ran the same footage. Him walking out of his house in cuffs, eyes forward, calm. Carla paced the living room, phone to her ear. Denise is calling in favors, trying to stall the charges. They're framing this as theft of government property. Marcus sat on the couch staring at his empty hands. They're faster at protecting memos than people. Carla's voice softened. Hey, you knew this might happen. He nodded slowly. I just didn't think it'd happen this fast. Late afternoon. Denise arrived, her face drawn but determined. She dropped a thick folder on his table. Good news and bad, she said. Start with bad, Marcus muttered. Internal Affairs just issued a statement calling your memo a fabricated document. They claim your photos were doctored. And the good? She cracked a grim smile. 6 whistleblowers have reached out since you went public. Other cities. Other memos. You opened the floodgates, Marcus. Carla's eyes widened. So it's not just this department? Denise shook her head. It's systemic. The language matches across multiple states. Marcus leaned back, rubbing his temples. Then they'll do whatever it takes to bury it. All of it. Which is why we go louder, Denise said. Public statement. Press conference. If they're calling you a liar, make them do it on camera. Marcus hesitated. They'll crucify me. Carla met his eyes. Or you'll become the line they can't cross anymore. The press conference was chaos. Bright lights. Dozens of microphones. Reporters shouting over each other. Marcus stood at the podium, flanked by Denise and Carla. He took a breath. I was beaten by men who believed they'd never face consequences. I released a memo proving that belief was policy. And now I'm being punished for telling the truth. Camera shutters clicked in rapid bursts. A reporter called out, Mr. Hill, do you regret leaking classified material? He looked directly into the lens. I regret believing that justice could survive in secrecy. Another asked, Are you afraid for your safety? He paused, the weight of the question hanging between them. I was afraid, he said finally, but fear doesn't keep you alive. Truth does. A murmur rippled through the crowd, admiration mixed with unease. Then from the back someone shouted, Liar! Security moved, but Marcus held up a hand. No, let him speak. The man, mid-40s police uniform partially hidden under a jacket, stepped forward. You think you know what it's like out there. You make us look like monsters. Marcus's voice was calm but firm. Then stop giving the world reasons to believe it. The room fell into stunned silence. Hours later, back at the apartment, the exhaustion hit him like gravity. Carla sat cross-legged on the floor, typing furiously on her laptop. We've got over 4 million views already. Public sentiment's shifting. People are demanding accountability. Marcus leaned against the wall. They'll spin it back by morning. They always do. Carla stopped typing, looking up. You sound like you've already lost. He stared at her, eyes distant. You ever fight so long you forget what winning looks like? She closed her laptop and stood. You haven't lost, Marcus. You've just stopped bleeding long enough to feel the pain. For a moment, they stood there in silence, the city noise filtering through the rain. Then his phone buzzed again, a number he didn't recognize. He answered cautiously. Mr. Hill, the voice said, calm, precise. You don't know me, but I work in federal oversight. Your memo triggered a deeper review. Quietly, you were right. Marcus straightened. And Winslow's resignation is being drafted as we speak. He's under investigation. Marcus blinked. You're serious? Completely. But it won't make the news, not yet. The system corrects itself quietly. Quiet isn't justice, Marcus said. Maybe not, the voice replied. But it's a start. The line went dead. He turned to Carla. They're investigating Winslow. Her mouth fell open. You did it. He shook his head slowly. No, we just cracked it open. Someone else has to finish it, she smiled faintly. You still think you're alone in this? He didn't answer. He walked to the window, watching the reflection of flashing sirens far off downtown. For once, they weren't coming for him. He exhaled, the tension in his chest easing. But under it, something else lingered, grief. For everything it had cost, Carla's voice was soft. What now? Marcus looked out at the city, fractured, restless, alive. Now, he said, we build something better from what's left. That night, he sat at his desk writing. Not legal notes this time, and a statement for himself. Justice isn't clean, it's not swift, it bleeds, it trembles, it breaks. But it's still worth the fight. He closed the notebook, letting the words settle. The rain outside softened into mist. Somewhere in the distance, church bells rang midnight. Marcus whispered, almost to himself, "They wanted to break me." He looked at the memo pinned on the wall, the one that started it all. "But all they did," he said quietly, "was teach me how not to bend." The city was quieter now. Not peaceful. Just tired. 3 weeks had passed since Marcus's press conference. The video had spread like wildfire, replayed on every platform, dissected by every commentator. He had become the face of a truth people couldn't ignore anymore. But with exposure came retaliation. Marcus's mailbox overflowed with threats. Half the country called him a hero. The other half called him a traitor. And yet, amid all the noise, something had shifted. The silence that once protected the system had cracked, and through it, light began to leak. On the morning of the hearing, Marcus stood outside the courthouse again, the same building where he'd once stood accused, beaten, and dismissed. This time, the air felt different. Reporters lined the steps, microphones pointed toward him like arrows. But he didn't flinch. He wore a gray suit, simple and clean, the same one he'd worn to his mother's funeral. Carla stood beside him, adjusting her camera strap. "You ready?" He smiled faintly. "I've been ready since the night they put me on that pavement." Denise approached, holding a folder thick with documents. "Winslow's defense is collapsing. 2 captains have already flipped, confirming the memo's authenticity. Internal Affairs can't bury it anymore." Marcus looked at the courthouse doors. "Then today's not about them," he said. "It's about what comes next." Inside, the courtroom was packed. Journalists, activists, uniformed officers, and civilians shoulder to shoulder. The air buzzed with tension. When Winslow entered, whispers rippled across the room. He looked smaller than before, the swagger gone, his eyes dull. He avoided Marcus's gaze. The prosecutor began with the memo, authenticated, time-stamped, traced to Winslow's department. Every directive, every order of suppression laid bare. Then came the footage. Marcus's arrest, the assault, the falsified reports, each clip landed like a blow. By the time the final recording played, Winslow's lawyers sat in silence, faces pale. Denise stood. "What we have here is not just misconduct," she said, voice steady but fierce. "It's institutional betrayal, a system that punishes honesty and rewards silence." Her words hung in the air. Even the judge leaned forward slightly. Then, the defense attempted to spin. "Agent Hill's decision to release classified material," Denise cut in sharply, "exposed a criminal conspiracy. If courage is a crime, Your Honor, then this courtroom stands on the wrong side of justice." The judge's gavel struck once, sharp and final. The verdict came swiftly. Guilty. Winslow and 3 others were convicted of corruption, obstruction, and falsifying evidence. The courtroom erupted, not in cheers but in gasps. Marcus closed his eyes, not out of triumph but release. Carla gripped his arm. "It's over," she whispered. He shook his head. "No, it's only visible now." Outside, the crowd swelled. Signs, chants, camera flashes. The phrase "Justice for Marcus" echoed through the plaza. Denise leaned toward him. "You're a free man now. You could walk away, write your book, start over." He looked out at the faces, young, old, black, white, all shouting the same word, justice. "I don't want a book," he said quietly. "I want a blueprint." That night, Marcus returned to the community center where it had all started. The walls were lined with posters, missing persons, police reform petitions, faces of those still waiting for accountability. He stood before the group of volunteers, speaking softly. "Justice doesn't begin in courtrooms," he said. "It begins in conversations like this, where truth isn't afraid to breathe, A young woman raised her hand. Do you think anything really changes, though? They always find a way back. Marcus thought for a long moment. Maybe, he said. But so do we. The crowd nodded. For the first time, hope didn't sound naive. Later, Carla found him alone in the office, staring at the old memo still pinned to the corkboard. You could take that down, she said gently. He shook his head. No, it stays. It reminds me what silence costs. She smiled faintly. You know, you've become kind of a legend. Marcus chuckled. Legends are just survivors people write stories about. I'm still writing mine. Carla leaned against the doorframe. So what now? He looked around the dimly lit room. The papers, the plans, the maps of reform networks forming across cities. Now, he said, we make sure this never happens again. Not to me, not to anyone. A few weeks later, the Department of Justice announced a federal reform initiative inspired by Marcus's case. It wasn't perfect, bureaucratic, slow, cautious. But it was real. And at the center of the press release, a single line stood out. Transparency begins where fear ends. I'm Marcus Hill. He hadn't written it for them. But somehow, they had understood. On the anniversary of his arrest, Marcus returned to the same intersection where it all began. The street was busier now. New murals covered the walls, faces of those who'd fought for justice painted in color and light. One of them was his. He stood there, hands in pockets, watching strangers walk past without recognizing him. It felt right that way. Carla approached quietly. You ever think about leaving this city? He smiled, eyes on the mural. Every day. And? He exhaled slowly. Then I remember what happens when the good ones leave. She smiled. You sound like a preacher. He laughed softly. Maybe. Or maybe I'm just tired of funerals. They stood there in silence, not mourning but remembering. As dusk settled, the sky burned orange and gold. Marcus turned toward the horizon, his reflection shimmering faintly in the mural's paint. He whispered, more to himself than anyone else. They took my badge, my name, my peace. But they couldn't take the truth. He placed a hand against the wall, feeling the cool paint under his fingertips. And that's all justice ever really needs. Someone too stubborn to stop speaking. The city hummed behind him. Sirens, voices, laughter. Life moving forward. For the first time in years, Marcus smiled without weight. 6 months later, a letter arrived at his apartment. No return address, just a single line on the inside. We're still fighting. Because of you. He folded it carefully, placing it next to the memo on his desk. The past and future side by side. He looked out the window and dawn breaking through the skyline and whispered, Reckoning's over. Now comes repair.